Welcome to the Transform Sales Podcast, where forward-thinking business leaders come to share their experiences and ideas, learn from each other, and amplify their results together.
Hey guys, welcome to another session of the Transform Sales Podcast, Sales Software Review. Your host here, David Menjura, and today I have a special guest. We got Saahil from Clientell.ai. How's it going?
It's going well, Dave. Thanks for having me. How's it going for you?
Awesome. Glad to have you guys here. We're going to touch base today, guys, on how RevOps leaders can improve the quality of their data and eliminate 70% of admin work. So just to get started, just to set up the stage, what was the reason of you creating Clientell? Was that an issue that you guys were experiencing you wanted to solve, or is something that you just woke up one day and, let me get a team, let me find a solution, and let me share it to the world? How does that work?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of both, right? We kind of wanted to, build sort of on top of all the AI infrastructure that's come out, right? Like, I think we're at a golden opportunity right now to utilize AI to build agents. And we were also sort of working with a lot of RevOps leaders and in RevOps earlier. And a key piece of that was we were always sort of running in circles, right? You always have the new sales, marketing softwares coming in, your company is growing, you have newer and newer campaigns, more complexity in your RevOps. And then what you need to do is RevOps ends up spending a lot of time doing, tactical work, right? Instead of these strategic, and what they're spending their time on is just, implementing so many softwares, integrating them together, trying to make sure the data is clean, trying to make sure you have good reporting, trying to make sure you have adoption among the users. So the idea was that, how do you streamline a lot of that manual work? So RevOps can focus on being strategic, right? Get through their tickets like 2 times faster.
Absolutely. No, and you mentioned something that's very important. It's like I'm seeing that happen a lot in the market where the teams are small. There's a sea of tools, right? And sometimes we get super attracted to shiny stuff. Then you want to add it into your tech stack, but you also have to focus a lot of your attention in sales and outreach and prospecting and admin work. But then, there's that one tool that will solve something, but then implementing it is going to add another headache. So how do you balance that out with a small team to make sure you guys are efficient enough to make the job done, right? So I'm glad you shared that, because it's something that I definitely have seen a lot, especially with the buyers that come into our marketplace. They know they have the right tools, but the team size and certain habits within the team is not allowing them to get the results they want with the tools they have in hand, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So when it comes to Clientell, what are the alternatives for your customers using before your software?
Yeah, so our customers always end up using some sort of a service. So they'd work with, say, a Salesforce implementation company or any kind of fractional RevOps services companies that build a lot of these systems out for them. They sometimes even have to hire additional people. They even have to use a lot of apps from, say, the App Exchange, or a lot of point solutions, right? Like there'll be a solution just to help you, say, deduplicate data. You need a different solution just to visualize your different reports, etc. You might be using one solution just to make sure your Salesforce and Slack workflows are connected, and you're able to run all of your sales ops workflows in Slack. So it's always a combination of smaller point solutions combined with, say, a number of human services that customers use to deliver sort of a streamlined RevOps.
Got it. So you guys have a suite of solutions, and based on the requirements that those buyers have, right? So, go for it.
Yeah. No, please. Sorry.
No. Just saying that you guys have a lot of solutions, right? And most of the solutions that these companies were dealing with were very disconnected, right? So they usually try to do the solutions on their own, and like we mentioned earlier, like it takes a lot of bandwidth. So I'm guessing they come to you in order to streamline all those small solutions and put into something that's going to be a lot more helpful for them. And as the title of this is, being able to reduce at least 70% of the admin work, right? Because now one person can do so much, right?
Yeah. For sure, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think a huge part of what we're doing is not just gluing the systems together, it's also reducing a lot of the softwares, right? So reducing the complexity from the system, making sure you get the same business impact without having to have a lot of software and constantly add more and more features or integrations.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. One of the things that I seen for sure, like in this market, is the lack of user adoption, right? A lot of people are getting into these tools and now they're not really completing those onboardings. They're not getting really into the tool itself, right? And I
Yeah.
believe that's one of the challenges that you're seeing as well. But what other challenges are your customers running into uh, with those alternatives that your software kind of help them overcome?
I think one of the major challenge of course for a small company is generally cost as well, right? Of having so many solutions and services. But I think even as you continue to scale, a lot of that tech debt keeps getting built on. So when you implement Salesforce for the first time, and then every time you add new and new softwares, features, etc., right? Your CRM and your overall go-to-market system, right? There's a lot of debt that keeps built on. You build a lot of flows, workflows. You build a lot of dashboards and things which you rarely use later on, and actually can sort of ruin the quality of your data. So if you're using
Mhm.
multiple enrichment solutions, if they've not defined properly in a waterfall, or there's not enough validation to the data, right? You can very quickly end up with extremely messy data within your CRM, right? And within your
Mhm.
overall go-to-market system. And the third problem which they face a lot is, you know, you're able to have a lot of solutions, but just the interoperability of the insights, right? Like, say you are using a call recording solution, the insights from that are also valuable to your customer success team. They're also valuable to your product team to build new features. So just making sure everyone is, or the insights that you're deriving from various points in your go to market, right, are shared across the team, very easy to access.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that you mentioned is you want to make sure that the system is backing your team up, right? Especially in RevOps, right? Is combining marketing, sales, and operation is, and if only one side is benefiting of the tool, then there's a disconnection, right? You guys are no longer operating as RevOps, right? So and this is one of the favorite part from the audience, which is kind of showing us a demo of the key features of your software that help them overcome the use case challenges we just mentioned, right? So if you could kind of walk us through how they can get the best benefit, how can you kind of show us how we can reduce 70% of the admin work? If I'm a revenue operation leader, how will that look? I'm going to
Um,
go ahead and share the screen.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's always good to sort of see what you're getting into, right? So
So
what we realized is, we talk about reducing complexity from systems, and a huge portion of that is sort of working within the existing systems, right? So we work within your existing Salesforce ecosystem, within Slack, within sort of Salesforce itself, to sort of provide these AI assistants or agents, as we like to call them, right? So it's, as you can see, Taran and Neil, my colleagues, right, are simply able to talk to an AI in Slack and get a lot of their implementation, a lot of their data, sort of querying, reporting, a lot of that done from here itself. So in this case, if you can see, my colleague Neil has had, he wanted to understand what marketing campaigns we have, right? So he's been able to sort of uh, quickly just ask the AI in natural language. The AI can sort of fetch relevant data from Salesforce, from HubSpot, where our marketing campaigns are at, right? And sort of understand, what are the different campaigns that we're running right now. And then
got it.
he also realized that, we're missing certain data. So he asked the AI to make sure that if it can create a rule such that, we understand what type of campaign it is, right? And this is a
Mhm.
common problem, right? You often forget what lead sources you have, where did the opportunity come from, right? And so that
Absolutely.
able to go back and forth, back and brainstorm, write the code for it, and deploy it with the test cases within Salesforce itself.
Got it.
So it's actually sort of doing the work of a developer, the work of a business analyst, as well as understanding the business context between the requirement, right?
No, and I want to put a situation there. Like, for example, let's say the person that was overseeing this left your company, right?
Yeah.
And that was the person that was fully trained to get this data, get it for you, pretty much be able to deliver on that, right? And then let's say that person left, right? But you also need to get this data the day after, right?
Yeah.
This is a good way to capture that information without having to hire somebody, prepare them, train them, make sure they have some experience on even finding this information, right? But now with the assistant, you can find that information. And everybody within those departments, whether you're in sales, marketing, and operation, you can go and ask those questions and have the assistant find that information within your go-to-market setup, right?
Yeah, I think it's as easy as just talking to your go-to-marketing systems, right? Like, For example, you want all the workflows, it can sort of fetch all the workflows that you have going on. Like you can see, right? We use Gong, which is a call recording software, which is very commonly used for forecasting and call recordings. We're able to, quickly understand what workflow we have there. So we enrich all our contacts and leads from all the communication that we're having, right? We have a forecast process running. So I can quickly just get all of this, right? And say if, of course, a lot of this, so the forecast process here, right? It looks very technical in nature. I can even, what I can do is I can ask the AI to explain some of this. So I ask for this case, what are the different rules that are going on, right? You get the different rules, but I can also say, can you give me a description for these? Like, what do they really do? So somebody who does not have, say, even the technical knowledge, right, or is not trained to use this can in English just go back and forth, and it's almost like talking to a colleague, right? And I can say, can you go ahead and deactivate something for me, activate something for me, all those things, right? So even if you don't have the technical knowledge, you can always, just ask for clarification, ask for any doubts that you may have.
I have a question. Let's say I'm in sales, I'm prospecting, right?
Sure.
I want to get data from a prospect, right? And I want to know what kind of conversations I have with that prospect and see what stage they're in. Does it give you that insight of information as well for me as a rep trying to do prospecting, or it's more on the setup, the settings that it picks up? How does that work?
I think it's a very important question, right? And like we mentioned, user adoption is very important, right? So the process you mentioned where I need to summarize my learnings currently is very cumbersome. As a rep, I will have to go to Salesforce. I will have to maybe go to my call recording software, listen to the conversations I've had, or make sure some of the summaries are in my Salesforce, look at the different stages, all of that, right? So it's sort of, I'll have to work between 2 or 3 platforms and even my own notes. So you can do that here, right, as well, right? So I can say, can you tell me how the opportunities are in real sarkar? So I can just talk to it, right? Or I can say to me, for example, right? I currently won't have any, so I can simply ask a question in English, right? It's going to take a second here, and then it's going to get back to me with all the different opportunities, and I can then ask further questions. I can say, can you give me, can you tell me what was discussed on the last call, for example?
Okay, perfect.
So you can, it's as simple as talking to your data here. I think it's taking a while. Yeah. So like here, right? So it knows what opportunities are going on, what stages they're in. I can sort of ask it to change the stage, add more data from Slack itself. I don't have to buy a separate software for that. So all of that can be done, right? So it's asking me if you need any more details about any specific opportunity, right? So the AI understands that I might actually be looking for a summary of what's going on, like you mentioned, right? So I can
Got
even
it.
say, go ahead and give me details about, a particular opportunity where I'm talking to, say, Johnson, right? Or Ortho or any of these.
I have a question. So, for example, let's say in my case, I'm looking for 10 software companies within my database, right? And I also want to get external links, right? So, can you give me the top 10 software companies that I have in my Salesforce instance? And can you give me a link to each company so I could do a little bit of more research? Would they actually go and find external information as well?
So we're building the bridge to the external information right now. So anything that's within any of your softwares, you can get that here. But say if you want the agent to access the internet, I mean, it's really not much work. OpenAI has made it like really easy to do that, right?
Mhm.
The only reason we haven't launched that yet is because we're in sort of a testing phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. I was just putting a situation where, you know, I usually get those scenarios, right? So I just want to make sure if that's a tool that allows it, but either way, just with the name, I could go and do that myself. It's not going to add too much extra time for me to do the research, but as long as it kind of highlights at least the top 10 companies that are most likely to convert in my CRM, that's enough value for me to go and hunt, right?
Yeah. And the best part is like anyone can access this, right? Whether you're a VP of sales, a sales manager, you're concerned about your team, you want to filter by a particular country, geography, industry, however deep an analysis you want to do, you can do that. However surface level analysis you want to do, you can do that. If you just want, say, a particular metric like sales velocity, you want to track that metric month on month, you can tell the AI, hey, can you tell me the sales velocity the last day of the month, right? So every 30th of the month is going to text you that metric.
Got it. So I have a question. So let's say you have a buyer, right? and the buyer doesn't have the best data, right? The idea is that they don't come to you expecting that your this assistant is going to do magic for you, right? You also require some layer of setting up the tools correctly, right?
Yeah.
For example, right, I have a scoring system, right? If I don't set it up correctly in Salesforce or the tool that I'm using, how are you expecting an assistant to find that information for you if it's not even set up correctly, right? So do you suggest that buyers have that initial layer of setting up the tool correctly in order for the assistant to fully complement the job to be done?
Yeah, so I think that's also very important, right? Like the initial data hygiene, right? So that's also part of what we do. So what we do is when a buyer comes to us, we first do an audit of what the system looks like, right? And the AI, the beauty of generative AI is that it can process a huge amount of even unstructured data, like emails, call transcripts, messy names. Like for example, a lot of people misspell stuff, right? Like if I'm selling to say a company, I might have someone might have written Dave, some might have written David, right? And then there's ambiguity, like the two different prospects, is the two different leads. So the AI can understand a lot of that. So once it does a scan of your current system or the system health, then the AI, you can also get the AI to fix things. So I can here say, remove all the duplicates for me using, say, the company name as a filter. So it will remove all the duplicates. And especially when you have so many tools, right? Like for lead generation, you have, your website visitor tools, you have Zoom Info, Apollo, a ton of those, right? For prospecting. So it's very easy to get into a mess where you have a lot of duplicates, duplicate contact accounts. So you can simply just talk to the AI. Earlier, you would have to sort of, take an export, work in CSVs, Excel, re-upload that data. You don't really have to do that here. You don't have to purchase the software. You can just tell the AI, hey, listen, this is what I want to do. The AI has the capacity to even write code if needed. So it can write code, test it, and deploy it.
No, and that's something that you mentioned that's very important. For example, I used to work at Apollo, right? And I was the first batch of the first batch in South America when they decided to hire, right?
Yeah.
And what I noticed, most of the clients that were assigned to me, most of them were suffering with duplicates, right? And that was the biggest thing that I saw is duplicates, right? So I'm glad you mentioned that here because if I have an AI and a whole bunch of duplicates, it's gonna build another headache for you, right? Because now you have to go back, fix the data, and of course, if you're paying for this tool, you want to be able to maximize it since day one, right? So
Sure. Yeah.
awesome. So this follows along very well with the fourth question, which is what tasks, deliverables, and or people are involved in setting up the software for this use case, and how long does it typically take to reach full productivity? So, and what is the time frame? Who does it involve to make sure that I'm properly set up correctly to make use of this?
Yeah. So currently, like I said, right, we're working within the Salesforce ecosystem, right? So in terms of the tech implementation, from even from a cybersecurity standpoint, which is very important, is only a couple minutes. All you have to do is sort of just download the app in Slack, uh, download the app in Salesforce, and just sign in with Salesforce. Simple, right? The app takes the permissions of the org. So, for example, if you are a senior leader who has permission to view all data, then what the questions you ask, you will get permission to view all data. But say if you are, someone who just joined the company who doesn't have access to a lot of data, and the company intends to keep it that way, you will not be shown, or you will not be able to perform such tasks. So it's very easy to configure, right? In terms of the deliverables, right? What we sort of do first in the very first week itself is we try to give it as much business context as possible. So it starts with just doing a scan of your current go-to-market system, your CRM, the different tools, the integrations, testing the health of those and the if they're done properly, right? Once we have that, then we get the AI to fix it, right, in the next 1 or 2 weeks, right? And then from week 3 onwards, you what you see is extremely pristine data and really clear insights, along with a very streamlined tech stack. Oftentimes what we've seen is, like I said, right, we're able to cut down a lot of software solutions that the company is currently using or maybe paying for and not using. A lot of companies are running into storage issues with their CRM. Like there's a lot of data out there which is no longer useful. So we're able to remove all of the sort of wasted storage. were able to clean up a lot of data hygiene, etc., in the very first 2 weeks itself.
Okay, cool, awesome.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like pricing, how does the pricing look for you guys at the moment?
Yeah. So pricing is we want to sort of keep it depending on the sort of number of licenses they already have on their Salesforce. So it's like, if your sales team is about 15, 20 people and you have like maybe 30 people on Salesforce, then we charge a flat monthly sort of fees. And that's what differentiates us from like a consulting company where you have to pay expensive retainers. And then versus like a SaaS where you have to pay license based. Here it's like, you pay a flat fee and then you get unlimited usage. We don't pay hourly. So it's kind of like, if you were to hire a full-time Salesforce developer, it would cost you $150,000. This would cost you like maybe $20,000 for the same job. And then a lot of cost.
Oh, that sounds very compelling. And one question that I have, this is more personally, I know you're helping RevOps, but which department you think is benefiting the most from your tool right now?
I think the RevOps for sure, right, is able to go through their, tickets at least twice as fast as they were earlier. And then, of course, sales is, I think, the number one in terms of benefiting from this, right? Because what they're getting is really clear insights on almost all of the deals, all the leads that are coming in, right? As well as it's becoming easier for leadership in sales to, quickly query without having to wait to get a report or something, right? Every Friday. Whenever they have any metric that they want to know about, any analysis they want to do, they can just talk to the assistant in English and then get the results of the analysis.
No, and if I think about it, like the amount of time it takes me to get that information for somebody, and let's say that person is not even available that day, I'm sacrificing a deal because if I reach out right now, right? Because like they always say, within the first 30 minutes, if you get to answer to your prospects, it's most likely they feel the need. And obviously most of those deals get closed. So having something like this that backs you up any time of the day, even if you decide to work on the weekends, I think is super compelling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we get better with the usage of AI, as well as the enhancements in AI itself, it's in the next few months, it's going to just feel like having a colleague, right? Like having your own personal analyst, data scientist, Salesforce admin, RevOps person, all in one, just supporting you, with whatever task that you want to achieve, right?
Absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And then the last question that we kind of go over is what KPIs should your ideal customer use to evaluate their success with your software for the use case, and what quantifiable outcomes can they expect? I know we mentioned one of them is reducing admin work, but what other KPIs and what other outcomes can they expect?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, reducing admin work, or as I like to say, right, like, are you able to get through your tickets, which the RevOps team gets much faster, right? Like at least twice as fast as what you were doing. I think that's number one, right? Because then the RevOps team can focus on making more strategic decisions to basically, creating strategies to increase revenue, for example, right? The second metric, which we really emphasize on, right, and that's the holy grail of any data-driven organization, is the data hygiene, right? So
Absolutely.
the quality of your data, right, that's what really drives any data-driven decisions, any analytics, any insights. So I think data hygiene is the number 2 KPI, right? And of course, it can mean different things for different companies, right? If you're struggling with duplicates, if you're not getting enough enrichment, right? So what we like to say is we create like a holistic data score, right? In terms of all the different aspects of having a good go-to-market data hygiene, right? So you will see that improve significantly, at least 50% in the first month itself, right? If you already have really, really great data, what we that you do is, the interoperability of it, right? Or the collaboration that you can do with your product team, with marketing, with sales. So enabling that. And of course, like it's a no-brainer, right? Compared to a Salesforce implementation partner or a consulting company, we are at least 70 to 80% less in cost. So the cost efficiency of just managing your go-to-market tech stack, just the amount you spend on software will go down significantly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then there's one thing that you mentioned that I think is very brilliant is the level of insight. So I've seen a lot of companies that are building in public, right? So getting those insights to turn that into content to attract more buyers into your solution, I think is very brilliant, because I feel like most of the things that I've seen when we create this content is the level of specificity, right? But if you can ask the assistant to get that data and you can create content within minutes, that's most likely going to drive a lot of more demand in your solution, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to say is, does the assistant also work as a solution expert? For example, let's say, hey, based on this prospect, based on where he's at, what solutions should we present to him based on his interests, right? Like, does that something that you also can feed into the AI for them to give you
Yeah.
recommendations?
Yeah. So the assistant has context of all that's going on in your go-to-market, all the leads that are coming to your website, all the people you're talking to, what's happening in those calls, all the emails that you're doing back and forth. So basically anything within your go-to-market system, right? And then of course you can leverage it to generate a lot of, like you said, content, and even say, specific solution engineering, right? Like you can sort of have your own AI sales engineer, which can sort of, configure a lot of the offering, like even questions which, a lot of reps ask themselves, right? Like, should I offer a discount at this point? So what the AI is able to do is compare that particular opportunity or lead, right, with all the previous ones that have happened in the company. And you can say, which bucket does this fall into, right? Because companies sometimes have multiple ICPs, they have different sizes of right to right. Like the concerns of say one industry you're selling to might be different from another one. So depending on where in the sales process, what type of ICP, what type of concerns that particular person, the persona, based on all that, you can get AI to generate a lot of things for you. They can ask it to write follow-ups to emails, generate proposals, brainstorm strategic decisions, like should you offer a discount to close the deal faster, should you involve more people from the buyer group. So all those kind of analysis, etc., and generations can be done as we keep working with someone, right? Like the AI keeps training, it keeps getting better. So like the more you work with it, the better prompts you give, the better results you start getting, right? And then so it becomes this feedback loop where over time that you can really become a 10x salesperson, right? You can be faster, you can close deals faster, you can do all of that. And it's for sort of almost every member of the RevOps org, it's adding value in some way or the other.
100%. 100%. Oh, this is great, Saahil. I feel like we didn't miss any information. I feel like I got all the questions that I kind of want to address, and I feel like this is good things for our audience that are definitely evaluating this type of tools. Those that are stuck in admin work, data hygiene, and they keep experiencing those pain points, right? I feel like this is a solution that not only is cost effective, but it feels very easy to implement, right? Within a 1 to 2 week time frame, I feel like it's something that sounds very compelling, right? Because I usually tend to see that any solution related to Salesforce usually takes more weeks to kind of implement, to kind of nail down the solution that we truly want. But I feel like this is a good option for sure. Anything you want to share before we wrap up? I feel like
I think we've covered most bases, right, Dave? And I think the holy grail of AI is if AI can sort of implement itself, right? Like the best part about the solution is like you can ask it to implement Salesforce itself on which it's built. So like you can say if implementing Salesforce for a company or making changes there, it sometimes takes months, right? Working with consultants, working with implementation partners, you can get even that done in weeks. So the idea is like there's this feedback loop which only gets better. But again, I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity, right, to sort of share what we're building with your audience, right? And I think they can find some value there for sure.
No, 100%. No, 100%. I thank you for taking your time for being here as well. Like I mentioned, I feel like this is something highly valuable, especially for the audience that we have. Most of our buyers that are coming in, they're living in a CRM. They want to get information. They're looking to hire people. And sometimes when they hire the people, sometimes the tool is not easy enough to gather that information. I feel like you guys are solving for something huge. And it gets worse, right? As you mentioned, there's more tools coming in. There's more data coming in. So how do you even centralize all that information, right? So I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave. All right.
Awesome. So guys, thank you for the this session of the Transform Sales podcast. I will leave the link on the description for those that are looking to evaluate this tool, Clientell. And Saahil, thank you for being here once again.
Yeah.
To catch you guys in the next session.